For most of my teenage years, people thought I was a boy. Not because I wanted to look like one, not because it was my choice, but because I wasn't allowed to be myself. I wasn't allowed to choose my clothes. I wasn't allowed to choose my hair. I wasn't even allowed to choose how I appeared to the world. And for years, I carried that alone, in silence, with shame. Today, I'm going to tell you what really happened, and why it was never about hair. Welcome back to The Healing Is in You. My name is Lana. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. I'm just a woman who has been through a lot, who went through very difficult things as a child and as a teenager, and who, after 30 years of trying to understand herself, 6 months ago, began to truly set herself free. This channel exists for women who grew up in homes where love was complicated, where the person who was supposed to protect you hurt you instead, where your identity wasn't yours, it was theirs. Have you ever looked in the mirror and not recognized the person looking back? Not because you changed, but because for a long time, someone decided for you who you should be, how you should look, how you should dress, how you should wear your hair, how you should present yourself to the world. And you had no choice. You had no voice. You simply accepted, because you were a child. And children believe what the adults around them say. Children accept what they are given. Children don't know they have the right to say, "This is not me." I lived that for many years. And today I'm going to tell you what was stolen, what stolen identity does to a child's body, and how I slowly, one choice at a time, took back what was always mine. Stay with me. I need to tell you something before I begin. Telling this story was not easy. It was one of the most difficult and most shameful processes of my life, because talking about it means reliving it. It means going back to that girl I was, and looking at her through adult eyes, understanding for the first time what was happening to her. But I am here, because I believe my story can touch someone who is going through something similar, or who went through it, or who still doesn't have words for what they lived. And if that person is you, this video is for you. At the school I attended, the uniform was a blazer, jumper, trousers, and formal shoes. Girls also had the option of wearing a pleated skirt with tights when it was cold, and a delicate leather shoe. It was a formal uniform. Elegant. And I would see the other girls with that skirt, those shoes, and there was something inside me that wanted that. Not out of vanity, but because it was feminine. Because the skirt, for me, was a symbol of being a normal teenager, of belonging to that phase of life like everyone else. I never had that. My clothes was always masculine. My trousers were baggy, thick fabric, clearly made for a man's body. My white shirt was my stepfather's. He was a bus driver, and when his shirts got old, she would give them to me. A grown man's shirt on a girl of 12 to 16. Too big, too loose, nothing feminine about it. My jumper I never took off, even in summer, even in the heat, because the shirt underneath was ugly and too big, and I was ashamed. My shoes were thick-soled clogs, heavy and masculine, that made no sense on a teenage girl's body. She said it was because of my varicose veins, but I knew. Deep down, I knew. It wasn't about varicose veins. It was about erasing me. And one day, years later, ironing clothes, I noticed something I had never noticed before. The buttons on women's shirts are on the opposite side to men's. The collar is different, more delicate, more feminine. Those shirts of my stepfather's were never made for me, and my body knew that, even when I still couldn't name it. When I was a child, my hair was very beautiful. Long, with golden curls, and I loved my hair. It was a part of me. It was something genuinely mine. And I remember the first time she cut it. I was around 8 years old. She said it was because of head lice at school. That shorter hair would be easier to manage, and she cut it. There, At home. No salon. No care. No intention of making it look nice. And I felt sad. Not because the cut itself was bad, but because that choice was not mine. My hair was simply cut. Without asking me. Without warning me. Without caring what I felt. That was where it began. Then, when I started high school, I was around 11 years old. My hair had been cut with a men's hair clipper. A truly masculine cut, with nothing feminine about it. And it was like that throughout my entire adolescence, from 11 to 16 years old. And what I need you to understand is this. Those cuts were all done at home. No salon, no care, no intention of making it look nice. Because there is such a thing as a beautiful short haircut. There are shortcuts that look beautiful on a woman. But that wasn't what this was. This was to make me look ugly, to make me look like something I wasn't. People at school had their theories. Some thought I had a disease, a cancer, some condition that explained why my hair was always like that. Always short, always the same, never growing. And I, out of shame, would sometimes say it was my choice, that I liked it that way, because the truth was too complicated to explain, and I didn't have the courage to say it wasn't me. It was her. Before I continue, if what I'm sharing is resonating with you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video, because we are just getting started. So I wore a wig. Back then, lace wigs, hair extensions, clip-in pieces, they were completely normal among girls at school. Many wore them, always subtle, natural, well-made, close to real hair. Mine was not like that. Mine was a short wig that sat just below my neck. Very shiny, clearly artificial. Sometimes I wore the wig. Sometimes I went with my own short hair. And today, after so many years, that detail has completely faded from my memory. I don't remember how it worked, whether one day it was the wig, the next without. That detail got lost with time. But what I know for certain is that none of it was my choice. It was very shameful. I felt so small, so hurt. But wearing that wig, I felt feminine. That wig was a symbol. I am a girl. I belong here. Because without it, when I walked into the girls' bathroom, they told me I was in the wrong place. Some would shout. Others would go to the principal's office. And that wig was the only thing that said, "No, I am a girl. I belong here." On the days there was no wig, she would comb my hair back with gel every morning. And when I got home in the afternoon, she would check, running her hand over my hair to feel if the gel was still hard. Because if it was hard, she knew I hadn't touched it. She didn't want me to touch it. And more than once, I changed my hair on the way home from school. Because the shame I felt at school was sometimes greater than the fear I felt at home. At school there were free dress days. I went anyway, because being at school was better than being at home. But even on those days I had no clothes, and she gave me one of her own overalls, an adult woman giving her clothes to a teenager. The bodies were completely different sizes, and I walked in looking like a mechanic. She even found it funny. And what confused and hurt me most was this. I was a teenager, and a teenager takes care of herself, makes decisions, expresses herself, within what is normal for that phase of life. But my uniform I didn't choose. My hair I didn't choose. And even on free dress day, when I could finally express myself, I still didn't choose. Because from the outside, it looked like it was me. A teenager who dresses like that because she likes it, who wears her hair like that because she wants to. And on the inside, I knew it wasn't, but I couldn't prove it. And that mix of emotions, knowing I didn't want any of it, but appearing like I did, was one of the hardest and loneliest parts of my entire adolescence. It took many years for me to finally separate the two. She was cruel. I was just a child. On my birthday, Someone gave me a small makeup kit, a lipstick, some eyeshadow. Small, simple. But to me, it was a treasure. She let me receive it. She let me hold it. She let me see it. And then she told me to give it to my sister. On my birthday, she let me go out. I went to a small shop nearby to do some shopping. I saw a padded bra. I bought it because I thought it was beautiful and because I wanted to wear something that made me feel like a woman. The next day, it was no longer my birthday, and that bra no longer belonged to me. And today, looking back, I understand something I couldn't see then. She never had any intention of letting me keep that bra. She knew from the beginning what was going to happen. Her pleasure wasn't in giving. It was in watching me have the happiness of going to buy it, of holding it, of believing it was mine, and then taking it away. Because the abuser feels pleasure in that. They feel power, the power to give, and the power to take away. They create the illusion that everything is fine, that you can, that it's yours, but they already know what is going to happen next, and the pleasure is exactly there, in watching you believe so they can watch you fall apart. Because their pleasure involves seeing your frustration. That is what psychological abuse does. It gives you just enough hope to hurt you more when it takes it away. Every small piece of femininity I tried to hold on to, she found a way to remove it, or control it, or turn it into something to laugh about. It wasn't just my hair. It was the makeup I wasn't allowed to keep. It was the bra that wasn't mine. It was the skirt I never wore. It was the mirror that showed me someone I didn't recognize. This wasn't about appearance. It was about stolen identity. On a bus, on the way home from school, my phone rang. It was her. She monitored me constantly. I had to be home within 30 minutes of school ending. If I wasn't, there were consequences. That day, she heard my voice and knew I had been crying. She asked what happened. I told her that a classmate had been messing around at the bus stop, trying to pull my hat off. When he pulled the hat, the wig came with it. And he looked at me, surprised, and apologized. He didn't mean to hurt me. And she laughed. And do you know what I thought in that moment? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I didn't find it strange. I didn't question it. I just heard that laugh and kept crying. Because when you grow up in an environment like that, cruelty becomes routine. What is not normal becomes normal. Sadness, pain, and shame were the only emotions that existed there. It was only today, as an adult, that I understood what that laugh meant. It wasn't carelessness. It was intentional. It was pleasure. And today, I also understand something else. Everything she did to my hair, my clothes, my identity, reflected her own problems. She had an afro that challenged her for years, hair that didn't grow the way she wanted, hair she never learned to love. And instead of working through that inside herself, she transferred that pain onto me. Hurt people. And what she could never resolve within herself, she poured onto me throughout my entire adolescence. For a long time, I was afraid to cut my hair. Any cut scared me, because scissors near my hair took me straight back to that place. So I let it grow. For years, I didn't cut it, because that long hair was proof that I was feminine, that I was me, that nobody had control over it anymore. But over time, my hair changed. Because of chemicals, time, so many things. It became finer. And my hairdresser started slowly suggesting we trim the ends. Over several visits, we trimmed a little at a time. Until one day, I wanted to cut it a bit shorter. And I remember the feeling of running my hand through my hair after that cut. And feeling that there was still hair there. That feeling was immediate. Relief, surprise, still me. And I understood that my hair looks better a little shorter. Not much, but just below the shoulder, with more movement, with more life. Today, I take care of my hair with love, with good products, with time, with care. Because I deserve it. And this made me understand something I want to share with you. Sometimes a skirt, a shoe, a haircut, a bra, a small makeup kit. To someone who never lived without these things, it seems small. But to someone who lived without the right to choose, each of those things means everything. The size of the achievement, only those who lived the loss can measure. For years, I thought this story was about hair. But it wasn't. What was stolen from me wasn't my hair. It was my right to become myself. And today, looking back 15 years, at that young Lana, the only feeling I have is wanting to hold her. Just that. I wouldn't need to say anything. I wouldn't need to explain anything. Just hold that teenager who, to the outside world, looked strange, unkempt, but who on the inside was carrying a weight no child should ever have to carry. Just hold her, without judgment, without questions, without needing words. Because sometimes, that is what a child who has suffered needs most. Not an explanation, not a solution, just someone who arrives and says with their arms, "I am here. You are not alone." And if you are listening to this today, and you recognize something from your own story, I want you to know, you were not the problem. You were never the problem. What was done to you was not your fault. And what was stolen from you, you can take back. One choice at a time, one day at a time, one moment at a time. The healing is in you. It always was. Before you go, I want to ask you something. Is there something about your appearance, a haircut, an outfit, a color, anything, that you chose for yourself after years of not being allowed to choose? Leave it in the comments. You don't have to explain everything. One word is enough. Because sometimes, sharing that achievement is what reminds us of how far we have come. See you on Monday.